Turn that damn camera off. Now! I'm not playing with you. Give me your ID.
The camera stays on. Why did you stop me?
I don't owe you an explanation. You're in my neighborhood, and I decide who gets stopped.
That's not how the Fourth Amendment works.
Don't quote the Constitution to me. I've been doing this job longer than you've been alive.
Then you know you need reasonable...
What you just heard wasn't just a tense exchange on a sidewalk. It was a uniformed officer openly asserting that he could stop anyone because I decide, dismissing the Constitution and threatening detention without articulating reasonable suspicion. In that moment, he didn't just lose his temper. He exposed a mindset that would cost him his career. He didn't realize the woman holding the phone was an internal affairs detective documenting every word. Within weeks, the footage triggered an internal investigation, a civil rights complaint, and ultimately a $175,000 settlement. What started as a routine stop became a catastrophic mistake, one that would lead to termination, public scrutiny, and a reckoning far bigger than he expected. The woman holding the phone was Detective Maya Reynolds, 38 years old, a 14-year veteran of the department and a senior investigator assigned to internal affairs. She had spent nearly a decade reviewing officer-involved incidents, use of force reports, and misconduct complaints, the very cases that determine whether badges are upheld or stripped. Reynolds graduated with honors in criminal justice, completed advanced constitutional policing certification, and had previously testified in multiple administrative hearings involving policy violations. Her record showed 0 sustained complaints against her, commendations for procedural integrity, and consistent performance ratings marked exceed standards. Within the department, she was known for being methodical, precise, and unemotional under pressure, exactly the kind of officer trusted to investigate others. On that afternoon, she wasn't acting as a suspect, a bystander, or a civilian. She was a decorated internal affairs detective documenting what she immediately recognized as a constitutional violation unfolding in real time. The officer confronting her was Officer Brandon Cole, 34 years old, an 8-year veteran of the Metro Police Department, assigned to patrol in the same district for most of his career. Cole had built a reputation for what supervisors described as assertive street presence and proactive enforcement. His stop and frisk numbers consistently ranked above the precinct average. Internal records later showed that Cole had accumulated 5 formal complaints during his 8 years on the force. 3 involved allegations of discourtesy and unprofessional conduct. 1 complaint alleged an improper stop lacking clear reasonable suspicion, but was ruled within officer discretion. Another involved a citizen claim of intimidation during a traffic stop that was classified as not sustained due to conflicting accounts. None resulted in suspension. Beyond brief administrative review, despite those complaints, Cole received solid performance evaluations and was twice commended for high-risk activity. Supervisors cited his productivity and confidence in high-contact environments. The department's internal metrics rewarded numbers, stops, citations, arrests, and Cole delivered them. It would later become central to the fallout, how a pattern of aggressive conduct, repeatedly minimized as personality or style, had been allowed to continue until it collided with someone who knew the policy and the law better than he did. Detective Maya Reynolds was standing on the north side of Jefferson Avenue, near the entrance of a small neighborhood grocery store. It was mid-afternoon. Traffic was steady, but not heavy. She had just exited her vehicle and was reviewing notes on her phone when Officer Brandon Cole's patrol car slowed, then stopped several feet ahead of her. Cole stepped out of the cruiser without activating lights or siren. He adjusted his vest and walked directly toward her. There was no report of a crime in progress in the immediate area, no visible disturbance. No one else was being questioned. Predicting his intentions, Reynolds lifted her phone and began recording as he approached. "Turn that damn camera off now. I'm not playing with you. Give me your ID," Cole said immediately. "The camera stays on." "Why did you stop me?" Reynolds replied. Cole positioned himself less than 2 feet away from her. His body partially blocked the sidewalk. Pedestrians were forced to step around them. "I don't owe you an explanation. You're in my neighborhood, and I decide who gets stopped," he said. "That's not how the Fourth Amendment works," Reynolds answered. "Don't quote the Constitution to me. I've been doing this job longer than you've been alive," Cole responded. "Then you know you need reasonable suspicion," she said. "Shut up. I don't need a lecture," he snapped. The people standing near the store entrance began watching. One man shook his head. "She didn't even do nothing. the man said quietly to someone beside him. Cole ignored the comment. He shifted his stance and moved slightly closer, forcing Reynolds to lean back while keeping her phone steady. His tone became sharper. "You fit the description," he said. "Of what?" Reynolds asked. "Suspicious activity. That's not a crime." She replied. A woman walking past stopped and said, "Why are you yelling at her?" Cole turned his head briefly toward the bystander. "Keep walking." The woman responded, "You're always stopping black people over here." Cole did not address the accusation. He redirected his focus to Reynolds. "Turn around," he said. "For what?" she asked. "You're obstructing. I'm standing on a public sidewalk," she answered. "What crime am I suspected of?" Cole stepped forward again. The phone camera tilted slightly as Reynolds adjusted her grip. His right hand hovered near his belt. "You don't belong around here acting like you own the place," he said. The statement was clear. It was not about conduct. It was about presence. A man near the curb spoke louder this time. "She's just standing there." Cole raised his voice. "Back up or you're interfering." Reynolds maintained her posture. "I am asking for the legal basis of this stop. You're refusing to comply," Cole said. "I am requesting reasonable suspicion. You think you're smarter than me," he said. "That's not what I said." Cole reached for her wrist. "That's unnecessary," she stated. "Turn around," he repeated. Pedestrians began recording from a distance. One voice said, "This is crazy." Another said, "Every time. It's the same thing." Cole repositioned himself to the side of Reynolds and issued a louder command. "Hands behind your back." "For what charge?" she asked. "You're being detained." "For what?" "Obstruction." "What obstruction?" Cole did not specify further. He guided her hands behind her back. The phone continued recording, angled downward as her arms were pulled back. A bystander said clearly, "He hasn't said what she did." Another added, "You don't stop white people like this." Cole instructed someone in the crowd to step back again. Backup was requested over the radio. Reynolds was placed in handcuffs on the sidewalk, in front of the grocery store entrance. No specific crime had been articulated. No description of a suspect had been detailed. No immediate threat had been identified. The sequence was direct and observable, an approach without stated cause, a refusal to articulate suspicion, escalating commands, dismissal of constitutional language, bystander objections identifying racial targeting, a physical detention. The event unfolded in public view. It was recorded continuously. It showed a black woman questioned without explanation, told she did not belong, ordered to silence documentation, and handcuffed without a clearly defined offense. No analysis was needed. The sequence spoke for itself. The injustice became undeniable the moment the handcuffs clicked. Up until that point, there had been argument, raised voices, and unanswered questions. But when Officer Brandon Cole pulled Detective Maya Reynolds' hands behind her back without articulating a specific crime, the situation crossed from tension into violation. "For what charge?" Reynolds asked again, her voice steady despite the physical restraint. "You're obstructing," Cole repeated, how she asked. He did not answer. The bystanders were no longer whispering. "She didn't do anything," a man said loudly. "You haven't said one thing she did." Another voice followed. "You always stopping black people on this block. Always looking for something." Cole ignored them. His focus remained fixed on control. Backup units arrived within minutes. Two additional officers stepped out, assessed the scene, and positioned themselves near the crowd. None asked Cole to articulate the basis for detention. None interrupted. Reynolds felt the shift internally. It was precise and clinical. She had reviewed dozens of complaints describing this exact pattern: vague suspicion, refusal to clarify, escalation framed as noncompliance. In multiple prior files, black civilians had written statements saying they were stopped for looking suspicious or not belonging. In each case, the narrative language in the internal report described the officer's actions as proactive policing. Now she was experiencing it firsthand. "You said I don't belong here," she stated clearly. Cole responded sharply. "I said you were acting suspicious." "No," she answered. "You said I don't belong." A woman in the crowd raised her phone. "He said that. We heard it." Another man added, "He thinks every black person walking down here is up to something." Cole turned toward the crowd. "Back up." The accusation of racial profiling was no longer implied. It was spoken openly. Reynolds understood the psychological mechanism in real time. The assumption of criminality preceded evidence. The tone preceded explanation. The force preceded justification. It was not about behavior. It was about identity. The realization was not emotional. It was factual. She was being treated as a suspect because she was a black woman standing in a space the officer believed required scrutiny. She said it plainly. This is racial profiling. Cole's response was immediate. You're making it about race. It is about race. She replied, there is no other basis here. One of the backup officers shifted uncomfortably, but did not intervene. The crowd grew louder. She asked you what she did. You don't do this to white folks. You looking for crime where there isn't any. Those words echoed prior complaints filed against Cole in 3 separate internal records over the past 5 years. Complainants had used similar language. One stated that Cole assumes criminal intent first and figures out facts later. Another wrote that he targets black residents for minor or non-existent infractions. Each complaint had been dismissed as unsubstantiated or within discretion. Now the same pattern was unfolding publicly. Captured on video, Reynolds was guided toward the patrol vehicle. Am I under arrest? She asked. You're being detained, Cole said. For what statute? Obstruction. What action constituted obstruction? He did not respond. The humiliation was deliberate and visible. Handcuffs, public sidewalk, onlookers recording, no articulated crime. The power imbalance was clear. One officer's assertion overrode repeated requests for legal justification. Backup reinforced authority rather than accountability. The witness's objections were treated as interference, not concern. As Cole positioned her near the patrol car, Reynolds spoke into her phone again. I am being detained without reasonable suspicion. The officer has not stated a crime. Multiple witnesses have confirmed I was standing lawfully. Cole's jaw tightened. That's enough. But it was not enough. The pattern had been named. Reynolds later described the moment of clarity not as anger, but as confirmation. She had reviewed data showing disproportionate stop rates. She had read complaint narratives that sounded almost identical to what she was hearing now. She had seen how institutional language reframed aggressive stops as productivity. Now, in real time, she was the subject of that system. This is exactly what people report, she said calmly. Assumption first, justification later. Cole did not engage with the statement. He focused on procedure, control, compliance. The injustice was undeniable because it was simple. A black woman standing on a sidewalk was told she did not belong. She requested constitutional justification. She was handcuffed without a clearly articulated offense. Witnesses identified racial targeting. Authorities ignored them. No ambiguity remained. What had once been complaint files and statistical disparities was now a visible event recorded, public direct. And in that moment, Officer Brandon Cole was no longer just asserting authority. He was reinforcing a documented pattern, one that would no longer remain buried in internal summaries. Detective Maya Reynolds was transported to the 8th precinct in the back of a patrol unit, still in handcuffs. The drive was short. No one in the vehicle articulated a charge beyond obstruction. No report had yet been completed. Inside the booking area, an officer began the intake process. Name, he asked. Maya Reynolds. She answered evenly. The officer paused. Spell that. She did. He typed, then stopped. His expression changed. He looked at her again. Detective. Internal affairs. Yes. The room shifted. Another officer stepped closer to the monitor. Run that again. The system confirmed her badge number, rank, years of service, and current assignment. Within minutes, the watch commander was notified. Captain Elena Martinez arrived from upstairs, reviewing her tablet as she entered the booking area. Why is an internal affairs detective in cuffs? She asked. Officer Cole stepped forward. She was obstructing a lawful stop. On what basis was the stop initiated? Martinez asked. She fit the description of suspicious activity in the area. What description? The captain pressed. Cole hesitated. Just suspicious behavior. Specific behavior, Martinez said. What did she do? She refused to provide ID. Martinez looked at Reynolds. Were you lawfully ordered to identify? Reynolds answered calmly. He did not articulate reasonable suspicion. I requested the legal basis of the stop. I recorded the entire encounter. The word recorded changed the tone of the room. Recorded? Martinez asked. Yes. Reynolds said. From first contact, Martinez turned to Cole. Did you attempt to stop the recording? Cole remained silent for a moment. I told her to turn the camera off. The captain's jaw tightened. On what authority? No one spoke. The liability became immediate. A black internal affairs detective had been detained without a clearly articulated crime. Witnesses had objected on scene. The encounter had been captured on video, and the initiating officer had a documented history of complaints involving aggressive stops of black civilians. Martinez requested Cole's complaint summary from internal records. 5 formal complaints, 3 for unprofessional conduct, 1 alleging an improper stop involving a black college student, 1 intimidation complaint during a traffic detention, all closed without sustained findings. Martinez looked directly at him. You understand how this looks. Cole responded defensively. She was non-compliant. She was asking for legal basis. Martinez said. She escalated by requesting constitutional justification. Silence again. One of the booking officers spoke quietly to a colleague, unaware the captain could hear. He always goes hard on people over there, especially black residents. Martinez turned. Is that accurate? The officer hesitated. There's been talk. The issue was no longer a single detention. It was a pattern intersecting with exposure. Martinez ordered the handcuffs removed immediately. Detective Reynolds, she said, you are not under arrest. We are reviewing this. Reynolds nodded once. This isn't about me, she said. This is about policy. Martinez understood the jurisdictional implications. An internal affairs detective detained without clear cause. Video evidence. Prior complaints referencing similar behavior. Public witnesses identifying racial targeting. If mishandled, it would become a civil rights claim. If ignored, it would signal institutional approval. She turned back to Cole. Why did you say she didn't belong? Cole shifted. That's not what I meant. It's what witnesses heard, Martinez replied. He did not answer. Did you articulate reasonable suspicion before detaining her? She continued. I believe I had it. Belief is not articulation, Martinez said. Policy requires you to state objective facts. The department's own training manual was clear. Stops must be based on specific, articulable facts. Race cannot be a factor absent a suspect description. Refusal to silence recording devices does not constitute obstruction. Martinez instructed the desk sergeant to preserve all bodycam and dispatch audio. She ordered an immediate supervisory review and notified the deputy chief. This is now an internal affairs matter, she said. Cole protested. So I'm the bad guy now. You are the officer who detained a colleague without stating a charge, attempted to suppress recording, and ignored constitutional language, Martinez answered. We will determine the rest. Outside the booking area, word began spreading quietly among staff. The incident was not being framed as a misunderstanding. It was being framed as exposure. A black detective had been told she did not belong. Witnesses had identified racial profiling. The officer involved had prior complaints suggesting similar conduct. The detention had no clearly defined statutory basis. Martinez's final instruction was direct. Administrative leave, effective immediately, she said to Cole. Turn in your duty weapon pending review. The turning point was not emotional. It was procedural. The department had to decide whether it would defend an indefensible stop or acknowledge policy failure. For the first time that day, authorities shifted. Not because of outrage, because of evidence. The internal review did not stay internal for long. Within weeks, Detective Maya Reynolds filed a formal civil rights claim alleging unlawful detention, retaliation for protected recording, and racial profiling. The cell phone video was submitted as primary evidence. So were the bystander recordings. The footage showed the full sequence. No articulated crime, refusal to explain the stop, the statement that she didn't belong, escalation when she invoked constitutional language, and detention without clear statutory basis. The department initiated a parallel internal affairs investigation. Bodycam footage from Officer Brandon Cole confirmed that he had not articulated reasonable suspicion prior to the detention. Dispatch logs showed no active call in the immediate area. Supervisory review found that the obstruction charge lacked a legal foundation under department policy and state law. During deposition, Cole was asked directly, what specific crime did Detective Reynolds commit? She refused to comply. He answered, with what lawful order? There was no clear response. As investigators widened the review, patterns emerged. Stop data from Cole's patrol district over a 3-year period showed that black Residents were stopped at a rate nearly double their representation in the local population. In multiple prior encounters, the documented basis for stops included vague phrases such as suspicious presence and high crime area. Supervisors had approved these reports without requiring further specificity. One internal memo acknowledged what had previously been dismissed as anecdotal. There appears to be a recurring issue regarding articulable suspicion standards in Officer Cole's field stops. The memo stated, in public, the narrative was simpler. A black internal affairs detective had been told she did not belong in her own patrol district. She had been handcuffed after asking for constitutional justification. Witnesses had openly identified racial bias. The department could not credibly argue misunderstanding. Settlement negotiations began quietly, but moved quickly. City attorneys assessed the exposure. Video evidence was clear. Prior complaints existed. Training standards had been cited, but not enforced. A jury would likely focus on the racial language, the absence of a defined crime, and the attempt to silence recording. The city agreed to a $185,000 settlement. The breakdown was documented in public records. $120,000 allocated for civil rights damages related to unlawful detention and emotional distress. $45,000 for reputational harm and professional impact. $20,000 covering legal fees and administrative costs. The agreement did not include an admission of liability, but it acknowledged procedural failures in the application of stop and detain policy. At a press briefing, a reporter asked the deputy chief, "Was this racial profiling? We identified policy violations." He responded carefully, "That's not what I asked," the reporter said. The deputy chief did not answer directly. Officer Brandon Cole was terminated following the sustained internal affairs findings. The official reason cited failure to articulate reasonable suspicion, improper detention procedures, and conduct unbecoming an officer. His personnel file now included sustained findings of policy violation. In a closed-door meeting prior to termination, a supervisor told him, "You were warned about tone before." "I was being proactive," Cole replied. "Proactive doesn't override constitutional standards," the supervisor said. The case also triggered systemic review. The department ordered mandatory retraining on stop and frisk policy, with specific emphasis on articulable suspicion requirements and implicit bias training. Supervisors were instructed to reject reports containing vague justifications such as "did not belong" or "look suspicious" without objective detail. A new auditing system was implemented to flag disproportionate stop patterns by race within individual officers' activity logs. Community leaders attended a city council session where the incident was discussed. "One of your own was treated like a suspect for standing on a sidewalk," a resident said. "If that's how a detective is treated, imagine everyone else." The council authorized an independent review panel to examine stop data across precincts. The findings showed disparities that had been statistically visible for years, but institutionally minimized. Throughout the aftermath, the core fact remained unchanged. A black woman, lawfully present, was treated as inherently suspect. She was told she did not belong. She was handcuffed for asserting constitutional rights. Witnesses recognized the racial dimension. Immediately, the department only confronted it when evidence made denial impossible. The $185,000 settlement was not framed as punishment. It was framed as resolution. But the record now reflected what had previously been dismissed as isolated complaints, a pattern of aggressive stops directed disproportionately at black residents, justified after the fact rather than before action. Detective Reynolds stated only one sentence publicly: "This was not about ego, it was about law." The legal consequences were financial, the professional consequences were termination, the systemic consequences were procedural reform. The exposure did what internal warnings had not. It forced the department to confront the gap between policy on paper and behavior in practice. And it confirmed, in measurable terms, that what unfolded on that sidewalk was not a misunderstanding. It was a constitutional failure shaped by race. This story is meant to generate awareness. It proves that constitutional violations do not begin with violence, they begin with assumptions. They begin when authority replaces evidence, when race substitutes for suspicion, and when accountability only arrives because someone pressed record. In 2025, Black Americans were nearly 3 times more likely to be killed by police than white Americans, and 77% of Black adults say they are treated less fairly by police than white people. Those numbers are not abstract. They reflect lived experiences, routine stops, unnecessary escalations, and the constant burden of proving innocence. Ask yourself, how many complaints were dismissed because there was no video? And if a decorated internal affairs detective can be handcuffed without a stated crime, what does that mean for everyone else? Accountability should not depend on status, it should depend on law. Do you know any organizations that work to protect the rights of Black people in America? Legal support groups, community safety initiatives, or civil rights coalitions? Share them in the comments. Let's support those working for justice and safety for all. Leave your thoughts below. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.